Governor John Bel Edwards vetoed a bill that would have made it a crime to be within 25 feet of police officers on the job who tell a person to step back.
As David Jones reports, advocates had raised First Amendment concerns around the legislation, while the bill's sponsor says he was trying to back police officers.
I spoke with House Bill 85 sponsor Pineville Representative Mike Johnson, as well as the ACLU of Louisiana's Advocacy Director Chris Kaiser. ACLU opposed the bill, and Kaiser says today's news of Governor Edwards' veto was welcome.
Of course, we want police officers to be safe. Of course, we don't want people to interfere with folks, but there has to be a balance struck.
Governor John Bel Edwards put his pen to paper and vetoed House Bill 85. The bill would have made it a misdemeanor to come within 25 feet of a police officer on the job if the officer orders you to step back.
HB 85 was problematic in large part because it was unconstitutionally vague and overbroad under the First Amendment.
Chris Kaiser is the advocacy director at ACLU Louisiana, one of the major opponents of the bill.
By the bill author's own admission, it would have covered a lot of First Amendment protected activity that had nothing to do with interfering with police officers. The fact that we already have laws on the books in Louisiana that prohibit interfering with police made this bill a wholly unnecessary threat to our constitutional rights.
We see it every time we bring anything that tries to protect police officers. The same group shows up and opposes it.
Bill sponsor, Pineville Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican, says there's a difference between his legislation and the legislation cited by Edwards in his veto, which was enacted in 2010 and provides for a penalty of 6 months in jail and or a $500 fine if someone refuses to move or leave when ordered to do so. Johnson says his bill would have created a buffer of 25 feet, and he framed it as a police safety measure.
Crime is out of control. And part of the problem is that our police officers, our law enforcement, are in many cases themselves subject to crimes against them as they try to do their job.
Kaiser says the vagueness of the bill starts with folks understanding the legally regulated distance, 25 feet, and how far they would have to stand.
We've seen in the recent years that bystander observations and recordings of police are often the only thing that makes the difference between knowing the truth of what happened in a police violence incident and relying solely on officers' accounts of what happened.
This in no way, shape, or form has anything to do with any of those other cases. In each one of those cases, people were not within a few feet of the police officer. Common sense tells you I can read whether it's heads or tails on a quarter from 25 feet.
Johnson says he plans to introduce the bill in next year's legislature. The ACLU says if the bill is ever to become law, they would more than likely be one of the groups interested in filing suit against the state. Meg.